Why do American farmers, gentlemen, hate Shakespeare? There's a picture of American farmers hating Shakespeare. Something to do with Shakespeare caused immense trouble to American farming. It's not Shakespeare's fault at all.
Not some farming practice that's hidden away in the sonnets or something?
It was an eccentric drug manufacturer called Eugene Schieffelin, and he decided that America should contain examples of every bird species named in the works of Shakespeare. And one particular species didn't exist in America. And he thought, oh, I'll introduce these. He introduced 100 to Central Park, and there are now estimated something like 200 million of them.
It's not the common pigeon, is it?
No, they come in huge flocks.
Geese,
Starlings.
ducks.
Starlings is the right answer. Starlings.
And they don't like them because they eat the seeds?
Yeah. Unfortunately, what they do is they befoul everything in their droppings that they don't eat. They're such huge flocks. Vast flocks.
I was on Brighton Pier one time, and there are lots of starlings there, and at dusk they do that.
They're beautiful.
And it's really amazing to watch.
Yeah, it's a
if you
wonderful
stand on the
sight.
pier. And then someone said that starlings come from hundreds of miles away to join in this coastal flocking.
Yeah.
And they come from as far away as Germany and Poland.
A lot of the Polish ones are coming over here now and taking away a lot of the... the British starlings' jobs. As you'll see, a lot of British starlings just sat on the prom like this, come bloody typical.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're the lazy British starlings who don't want to work.
Why don't they just get up and join in, you know? But they won't, will they? It's typical, typical.
No, you're right. The flocks are up to 1 million, some of them. I mean, enormous flocks.
Are they just having fun? Or is it a good way of eating?
No, in the case of fish, I know that what they're really doing is presenting, as it were, an enormous fish that sort of glistens and frightens some predators, and in other cases it confuses and dazzles, and they're a lot safer than...
Starlings are basically scared of sharks.
I'm not so sure about
the shark might leap out of the West Pier.
You may laugh, but when was a starling last killed by a shark?
That's true.
So it works. You're absolutely right. It's 100%. It is 100% starkly proven that this shall keep us safe from sharks. Come on, boys. Thum! And they're like that.
So, good, excellent. Starlings were brought to America in an attempt to introduce all the birds in Shakespeare to the US. They're now major... Just how great were the great train robbers?
Well, they're not that great because they got caught.
Well, yeah. I mean, they got so caught. They got caught almost immediately. Yeah. And they got caught in very stupid ways. Do you know how they were caught? They went to this farm and played Monopoly using the stolen money as their Monopoly money. And then they cleared out and left their fingerprints over everything, over all the Monopoly set. And they were all, you know, they all had form. They were all, you know, known blaggers. So they were just rounded up, all 12 of the gang of 15. One was acquitted, 2 were never caught. They were pretty inept, is the answer, basically. Who's the most famous of the great train robbers, would you say?
Ronnie Biggs.
Ronnie also said Ronnie Biggs, yeah. And what was his role? Was he the mastermind? Is that why he's the best known?
No.
No, he was such a small peg in the whole thing.
Was he the driver?
No, he wasn't even that. He was inside. He was doing a stretch for taking and driving away. And the mastermind of the entire event met him and said, I'm planning this blag.
I'm planning a game of Monopoly.
Yeah,
He's just got to pick something up on the way.
Yeah,
it's my set, I've lost all the fake money. And the only way of replacing it I can think of...
I've run Waddington's, they didn't want to know. Get a new set, they said. Don't be ridiculous, I said.
Anyway, the mastermind was called Bruce Reynolds. And he said, if you can find me someone who can drive a train, a diesel train, I will cut you in on a big job that's going down.
You can I mean, it's not, that's like... that's not like someone who can sort of melt diamonds with their eyes. Someone who can drive a diesel. Apparently they exist somewhere.
But the amazing thing, David Mitchell, is that Biggs found this guy whose nickname was Old Pete or Stan Agate. No one knows who he was because he was the one who was never caught.
Was that Old Pete the train driver? I know.
Yeah. So his job...
After Casey Jones had turned him down.
Yeah. For this, for being found, Ronnie Biggs got a share worth 147,000, which in today's money is 1.6 million. And all he had to do, Ronnie Biggs, was get this guy, Old Pete, to the scene. But this Old Pete got to the train and said, oh, I don't know how to drive that. Big still got his share, but old Pete was useless. He couldn't drive a train. He'd been lying all the time.
I like the idea that old Pete's like those actors who put on their CV. Yes, I can horse ride. Oh, yes, I can drive a train. I speak Mandarin, too. Train through China, no problem at all.
That's how he found him. He went through Spotlight. And the other, apparently, he was very well reviewed in Much Ado About Nothing last year.
And he's trained in modern dance.
Yeah.
That could come in handy. Well, the great train robbers weren't particularly great. Most of them were caught because they left fingerprints on the Monopoly set at the safe house. Why are so many great men short?
Are they really?
David, you've hit the nail on the head. Rem acu tetagisti, as they would say in Latin.
I'm sure they would.
Yeah.
It means nice one, son.
Yeah. That's absolutely right. In fact, Napoleon,
Napoleon was short, wasn't he?
No, he was above average height.
Everyone was short in those days.
Wasn't he?
Well,
he was 5'6", which was taller than
He
it
was
is
5'7",
now.
actually.
Yeah.
Average height was about 5'6"-ish.
So it's just the British who decided he was short, put him down a bit.
Yes, it was particularly a cartoonist called Gilray. When we were at war with Napoleon, there was a famous one of George III with a little Napoleon based on Gulliver's Travels, like that. And he's actually saying, I cannot but conclude you to be one of the most pernicious little odious reptiles that nature ever suffered to crawl upon the surface of the earth. There. That's
It's snappy.
It's a snappy one. He was 3 inches taller than Nelson, for example. Nelson was 3 inches shorter than Napoleon. It's certainly true that...
Nelson was 5'4"?
Yeah.
Like Danny DeVito?
He was very, short chap.
No wonder they put him on such a big
So
column.
is that kind of...
Yes, he's tall in Trafalgar Square.
Is that short man syndrome a kind of retrospective thing, then, that we've kind of invented more recently and then just gone back and said they're all short?
Yeah. Some of them were short, though. There's no question. I mean, Stalin was surprisingly short. He was only 5'5". Mussolini was 5'6". Franco was 5'4".
5'4"?
Yeah.
They are all short, Steve.
Well, no. He hit the 5'8". Idi Amin was 6'4".
Yeah, big
That's
fella.
my height. Fidel Castro, 6'1". Mao was 5'9", which is rather tall for a Chinese person. So...
But mostly they're not judged on their height, are they?
No, they're not. They're not. But all I'm...
We'll let that go.
Yeah. All I'm saying, there seems to be historically no evidence that short people are more power-hungry, more tyrannical than people of average or tall stature.
Because you know what it came about, though, because it's just that one... It's probably the one thing that short people have got to cling on to. One day they might be a dictator. Well, and we've just taken that away from them.
All this
little hope.
All this not being able to reach things from shells, one day will be made up for when I kill millions of people. And I can stand on their bodies.
Yeah.
Reach the jam.
Everybody knows somebody short in their life who's been particularly angry and abused his position of authority. And then you decide he's a bit like Hitler.
That's the point. You notice when a short man has a tantrum
Yeah.
and says, oh, short man, Napoleon complex.
Tall man has a tantrum, you just leg it.
Exactly. I have to say, I'm rather shocked by this. Heightism does exist. Short people are paid less on average than tall people. The disparity is comparable in magnitude to race and gender. A survey of Fortune 500
They
companies...
should rise up.
Yeah. Hey. The chief executive officers of Fortune 500 companies, 90% are above average height, which is astounding, really. And 30% of those are over 6'2". They're the tallest 4%.
Every now and again, a little short fella breaks through.
Yeah. Oh, stop.
Escapes, gets away.
Yeah, yeah. But it is...
Me!
It is rather shocking that there is this disparity. And, of course, we always notice the powerful, short, rich man with a young, tall wife is...
Billionaire Bernie
She's
Ecclestone.
actually... I've seen her with him. She's actually much taller than that, above him.
Yeah, she's bending her knee there.
Yeah. I mean, he has to jump up to slap her on the bum. He can run through her legs.
And who's the couple on the left?
That's Carla Bruni and...
Sarkozy.
Sarkozy.
But at least the women have both got handbags that their husbands can fit in, which is...
No, there isn't really any evidence that dictators are shorter than the rest of us. The Napoleon complex is the best place in the world to discover an entirely new species.
The National Geographic Channel.
Maybe.
They're at the forefront.
Do you think you might spot something on the edge of shot? The documentary makers have. See, they're going on about that monkey or whatever, but that's a totally new sort of caterpillar.
What about the Amazon rainforest, where they're discovering new things all the time?
No.
Kent.
Yes, that would do.
Kent?
Kent would do. Basically, your own garden. You may say, no, how? There won't be anything in my garden that hasn't been discovered. You would be amazed. In 1971, Jennifer Owen, a biologist, did a very long-term study of her ordinary garden in a suburban house in Leicester. She discovered 533 species of ichneumon wasp. Just that family of parasitic wasps. 15 of these had never been recorded in Britain. 4 of them were completely new to science in a suburban garden. So in your garden, if you have a garden, there will be things. Gilbert White, the naturalist, said, nature is so full and so varied that if you want to find the place with the most variety, it's the place you most study. It almost doesn't matter. Just take a piece of land and look at it hard enough, you will see things that...
You're going rainforest, I'm sorry.
Yes, but you'd have to travel thousands of miles, you'd have to park there, you'd have to look, you'd have to, you know...
Park?
The point... Well, yes.
Everyone knows it's a nightmare parking.
I'm slightly worried that my brain let me say that.
Where?
The congestion charge alone would just make drives up the cost of research horrendous.
Trees made of.
Wood.
Is the right answer. Yes, well done. You see? And what is wood made of?
Carbon.
Yes. And where does the carbon come from?
The Earth.
The Earth?
Yeah.
No, you'd think most of what makes a tree was drawn up from the soil in nutrients.
It's air, isn't it?
It's actually the vast majority of everything that makes a tree comes from the air, yeah. Photosynthesis, which breaks down the air and leaves the carbon. And that's the carbon that makes a tree, so it is made of carbon. It's quite surprising. How many men have been president of the United States?
Oh, it's 46 or something?
Well, shall we ask the great man himself? Shall we ask the current president?
Is he here?
Is he here tonight? Ladies and gentlemen...
What a waste of a guest.
I'm glad we've given up my seat. I sat in the audience for this one.
Here he is, the president, but which number of the United States? He's here to tell us.
I thank President Bush for his service to our nation. As well as the generosity and cooperation he has shown throughout this transition. 44 Americans have now taken the presidential oath.
He's wrong. He made a mistake.
He's only been on once and he's wrong already.
He is currently known as the 44th, just as Bush was known as the 43rd, but they aren't. Bush was the 42nd and he is the 43rd.
Oh.
Do you know why this is?
One of them was invisible.
Was there someone who was president for a bit and then stopped being president? Someone else was president and came back?
There was one non-consecutive president, who was the 22nd and the 24th.
Why did they count him as 2? That doesn't make any sense. Yet they count Clinton as 1.
Yeah, because his terms are consecutive. This one was the 22nd, then Benjamin Harrison was president, and then he was the 24th. This was Grover Cleveland.
I think if I was doing that, if I was setting that system up, I would have gone for the number of different men. Right?
Yes.
I would say, you know, that you get a new number if you're a different man.
Person, exactly.
Not if there was a gap.
No, I know, but there's only ever been one gap, and for some reason they didn't do that. So when he took his second oath, he was called the 24th president, although he was the same man who'd been the 22nd.
Well, he was actually Stalin.
He was, he does look a bit like that.
So not only did he rule Russia, kill millions of people, he was 2 presidents of the United States.
It's a weird system,
That's
isn't
a CV.
It's quite a bombshell.
Now we know what he was doing in between presidents.
Yeah, exactly. Barack Obama is, in fact, the 43rd person to become President of the United States because Grover Cleveland held the position twice with a 4-year break in between, making him the 22nd and the 24th President of the United States. I went to the supermarket and all I wanted was a loaf of bread and some milk, and I came back with a small jar of truffle oil, a pot of organic anchovy.
I remember that day, that was
yes. And a flagon of fermented essence of Vietnamese sucking goat and a small curly-headed chap. When all I wanted was bread and milk. What was going on?
Early onset dementia, Stephen, which I think that's what it is.
It seems
They're
so.
very clever with the way they put things in the aisles and they catch you out. You end up with a Swiss
yes.
roll you had no intention of buying.
Precisely. There is a huge science to the placing of products. There's a thing called a Grün transfer. There was a man called Victor Grün who was generally considered the father of this whole business. Apparently, men buy things from higher up. They're also more likely to pay more. So everyday things that women are more likely to buy are at 3 to 4 feet, and the more expensive premium goods are higher up. The men will pluck those, say, yeah, that's good, that's the best, that's the most expensive one, that must be the best, because we're stupid like that. And the women will say, well, that's a good price, I'll get that one. It's called the Grün transfer.
They play different music during it because you're more or less price sensitive at different times of the day. They play different music. It's more kind of sedate supermarket music during the afternoon, but by half an hour before the supermarket closed, they speed up the music in order to make you shop faster. And also the people go beep, beep, beep quicker because the music develops a beat. So they actually,
Start playing the Crimson Tide music. People shop like their lives depend on it.
It seems we're all victim to this. I mean, I have to confess, I like to think of myself as an independently minded person, but I've gone into these shops wanting 4 things and come out with 20. Which of us hasn't?
But they make them look nice, but then you go home and enjoy them. It's not like you go home and go, this is just tar. Why the hell do they make me buy it? It is still a packet of biscuits. And you go home and go, thank God I bought that nice packet of biscuits. I can have that now.
Yes, there is an element to that.
Yeah, I mean, like, we about them as if they're being foisted upon us, like, and the guy in the mirror, ha, 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 they have bought our tar biscuits again. Take all good things off the shelves, only tar from here on.
Anyway, that's probably enough about that. Shops have a number of tricks up their sleeves in order to trick us into buying things we don't need. And when you've fallen for them, you're the victim of a Grün transfer.
When was the First World War first named as such?
The outbreak, the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand.
You think they called it the First World War straight
Before
away?
it started.
It would be an act of a pessimist to call it the First World War that early, surely. It's going to be some point after 1939, isn't it?
A realist, surely. So it's going to be more of these.
Yeah.
At
what point? Excuse me. I think what I said, people in the box, is after 1939, which may contain 1939, but does not mean it.
No, well...
After 1939 and after the Second World War are not synonymous. Now, this is just giving you time to type after 1939. Why don't you just type, Mitchell is a cop?
Chances of survival in a plane crash.
I'm guessing it's going to be one of these where there are loads and loads and loads of plane crashes, but usually no one dies.
Yeah, it's more or less true.
So statistically...
I imagine it swings on the whistle that you get on the life jacket. I think that's probably what saves the lives. The people, and if it's that kind of plane crash that's never happened, where the plane lightly bobs onto the water, everyone gets out nicely, takes their high heels off, inflates the thing, tops it up, and then, oh, help doesn't seem to have come. I know. Oh, that's all right. Here comes the American
It does
Army
rather
now.
rely on someone having quite selective hearing and going, I didn't hear that plane go down, but...
Imagine anything more... I can't imagine anything more pathetic.
What if there's a
than
plane
load
crash?
of air travellers
What if
bobbing
there's a
along in the
plane
water going, beep, beep, beep.
What they should give is everyone gets a different note.
Yeah, that
And you get a little songbook.
Well, wouldn't it be tragic, though, if you were playing a little song and one of the notes didn't go off and you went, didn't make it?
Didn't make it.
Oh, dear.
I see Dave's been eaten by sharks. We're going to have to play chopsticks.
Let's do South Pacific. We can do this show right here.
I heard an urban legend about the brace position. Someone told me that the reason they want you to put your head between your legs is so to preserve the dental record.
I don't think it's true.
I heard that as well. And actually, I don't know why they don't just tell people that. You know, in the unlikely event of your death, I'm sure you'll all agree you'd like to be identified. Bite down hard on your own armrest.
So, my question is, what's your worst nightmare?
I don't have nightmares. I just occasionally have dreams that are quite stressful.
Oh, like what?
Increasingly, they involve having to do my A-levels again.
Oh.
For some reason, I've been busted back to the sixth form, and I have to do my A-levels again. I keep saying, this is ridiculous. I've been to university. Why am I having to do my A-levels again? But I do have to do them again. and I wake up all stressed by it.
And then have to go to the toilet.
Yeah. It's quite nice, because I reflect as I go to the toilet that I don't have to do my A-levels again. That's good news.
Are you a nightmare person, Alan?
No, but I wish I had a dream recorder.
They're boring, though, when people tell you their dreams. They're so
No, not
boring.
other people's dreams. I don't want other people's dreams. My own dreams are amazing.
People always go, oh, my hands were made of coleslaw, and then you were in it, and you had, like, really big... And you're like, this is so boring.
Have you ever been... When you hear someone describe their dream and they mention someone's in it, and then you sit there rather hoping that you're going to crop up in it. And then you don't always, and you sort of go, oh, I've not invaded this person's consciousness enough.
Sometimes I have dreams where I need to fight someone and I have no strength. And I'm supposed to get someone and I can never get there. And I'm impressed by all the various obstacles I can put in my own way that I invent in the night.
But those aren't the most common sort of ones. The thing about being chased, not being able to get to the toilet in time. Being exposed publicly naked is a very big thing, and how you respond to that. So if it doesn't bother you, that suggests you are secure in real life. If you're embarrassed, it suggests you are uncomfortable about something. If you don't notice that you're naked, I think you have a lack of self-awareness, is, I think, what it would probably be. Do you sleep on your left or your right side? Because that may have some impact on whether you dream or not.
Do most people have one side?
Oh.
I like
Are you a tosser and turner?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, my God, this is a dream, and you're going to wake up and go to the toilet in a minute. We're all in your dream.
So what did you say, left or right?
Right.
OK, so that fits with the study that they did in 2004. You are more likely to have disturbing dreams if you sleep on your left-hand side than if you sleep on your right-hand side.
So I'm good. So you toss and turn.
It could be either way. I didn't realise. Now I'm making a choice.
Yes.
Am I just going for rest or adventure?
What side does your wife sleep on?
I'm not aware of her having a preference for one side
so
or the other.
you have one side of the bed, right? Like,
yeah.
Surely... See,
Yeah, I'm not an idiot.
So my husband makes me sleep facing away from him because I breathe too loudly.
That's quite weird, isn't it?
Well, like those two in the picture.
Oh, yeah.
When I got married, another thing I found out, that it wasn't usual to put your underwear and your socks on before you put any of your clothes on.
Well, you're supposed to put it on afterwards.
No. Did you marry a
superhero?
I put my underwear on, and then I put my socks on, and then I put my outerwear on.
OK, and what's wrong with that?
Well, apparently it's weird to put your socks on before you put your trousers and your top on.
I think your husband is telling you that things he does are things that everyone does. It is perfectly reasonable to put your socks on before your trousers
It's
are all
also perfectly reasonable to breathe while you're asleep.
At this point in our Euro quiz, regulations require us to have a Call My Euro Bluff round. So, let's play Call My Euro Bluff. Good evening and welcome. No, hush, Tish and Pibble. With whom shall we start? We'll start with David. David, give us some Euro regulation.
It's illegal to sell bananas if they're too curvy.
What do we think? Anyone got a theory about that?
I think that's true.
It's quite a well-known Euro regulation, straight bananas.
It's utter arse of the highest order.
So you're saying a bluff, are you? Well, what do you feel?
I seem to recall this is one of those things that the Daily Mail would suddenly go, how dare they say our bananas can't be bendy? Why, it's bendy bananas made this country what it is.
Yeah.
Balls.
Yeah, you think it's balls. Would you like to reveal, then?
Balls.
It's a bluff.
It's just you just have to say how big they are, which is fair enough, because you don't. Otherwise, people are selling tiny pea-sized bananas.
And the clincher is the current EU standards are identical to the pre-existing British ones and the United Nations ones and the OECD ones. I mean, nothing has changed. Nothing is new, except, as you say, the ability of the press to make things up and scare us that our bananas are going to be straightened. So, it's become rather political and rather exciting. Tara, what is yours?
OK, well, this actually is true. Trawlermen will soon be required to wear hairnets whilst fishing.
Is this because they're handling food? And
it's exactly the point is to keep them clean right from the very start. So that's
convincing stuff. What do we feel?
Well, it makes practical sense as well, of course, because the hairnet could also maybe catch any smaller fish, like, you know, whitebait or scampi that might get in the hair, and then you just at the end of the day, oh, there's another. That's dinner.
Yeah, they're used to handling nets. What are your thoughts?
Well, I know they wear hard hats now at Smithfield Market, and they never had to. They're always making people put things on their heads.
Good point. I know, I like that. Good. What do you feel, Phil?
Yes.
You think it's true as well. So most people think this is true. Come, demonstrate, would tell us, put us out of our misery. It's a bluff as well. It's not true. In fact, I quote Richard Littlejohn. He goes, oh, what a circus. The safety Nazis have forced fishermen to wear hairnets. You couldn't make it up. Well, actually, oddly enough, Richard, you could and you did.
It wasn't as if that Littlejohn didn't make that up.
No, he didn't, in fact.
It was made up by British journalists in a bar in Brussels.
Yeah, absolutely
who tried to run to see, will people fall for this?
Yeah.
And the British press fell for it completely.
It's because they know that people love their little 5 minutes of snorting anger over the breakfast. Bloody people! Why, God, it's so...
It's ridiculous. You don't take an active interest in how your country's run for just 45 years, and look what happened.
Would you believe that they put a man on the moon?
Who? Hey, these guys?
NASA.
Oh, NASA. Yes, yeah, I think so.
You believe that?
Yeah, I believe it.
Yes, you believe it. Good, that's all. That's sort of all at the end of the question, really. But you probably know that quite a lot of people don't believe it.
No. Yeah, but, well, I sort of believe one thing.
Yeah.
Which is I kind of believe that they might have done some mocked-up fake photographs.
Really, why?
Because I was... someone convinced me of it.
Yeah.
by talking about the angle of light and the shadows on the moon and all that. But then I did an advert with Patrick Moore, and I said, so, Patrick, did they land on the moon? And he looked so annoyed with me.
Yeah.
He actually explained to me how he had helped map the moon for NASA, and he'd spent years on the project, and the landing site was partly his idea, and if I ever spoke to him again, he was going to be sick in my eyes.
They are rather tight. If you'd spoken to Buzz Aldrin, he might have punched you.
I was going to say...
Buzz Aldrin punched someone because he just got so tired of these conspiracy arses.
I think it was a television documentary about...
Well, there have been several, of course.
You know, look at this photo. This couldn't possibly have been taken on the moon. This is obviously taken in a studio.
You're getting me started now, because one gets very sort of strange about this. But there are a lot of conspiracies. 6% of Americans believe that man didn't land on the moon, but 25% of Britons believe that they didn't. So that's a quarter of our nation are not convinced, apparently.
That's so depressing.
Isn't it?
It is.
The flag, it's one of the thing I read...
the flag is another thing, yes.
The flag, and
yeah,
you think,
but there it is.
Well, obviously, they've starched the flag because they wanted to get a good photograph of it. They've stiffened the flag.
No, they haven't stiffened it. That's the point. The fact it's rumpled. There's no breath of wind out there, obviously, because you're in space, which is, as it were, a vacuum. But what there is movement. If you impart movement to something, it doesn't stop moving for a long time because there's nothing to... There's no resistance against it. So they unpacked it, unfurled it, put it down, and it moved back and forth. People said, breeze. Ha-ha. As if, A, they would be stupid enough to fake it and allow the take that had the breeze in it to go out.
But also, if you went to the moon, the least you'd expect is a flag moved a bit strangely. You know what I mean? You expect him to make the soup dragon, and you think, OK, he's not there. The flag moves a bit strangely, I can go with that.
Yeah. Why isn't one of them holding up a camera? Because you can see him reflected, the one taking the picture's reflected in the visor of the one, and he's not holding up a camera like that, you see. But that's because they didn't, in the visors, put a camera up in front of their visor. They were mounted.
You couldn't really actually imagine them getting a camera out, you know, clip,
like that.
wind it on.
I'd like to go to the moon.
You would like?
Oh, yeah, I'd like to do that.
Yeah. I mean, two of the other things, just in case people are saying, but you haven't mentioned the clincher. One was the idea that below the lunar module that landed, there was no crater or sense of disturbed dust. The fact is, the engine's cut off and it hovered down and it very, very quickly landed. And unlike in science fiction films, it doesn't send out spears of flame as it descends. That just didn't happen. So,
because it was designed by, you know, human brains and geniuses, and not a lot of people sitting tapping away at the internet who've got to go up to work in the morning.
Yeah,
who do you trust here?
We are in trouble as a species if people will refuse to believe in things that they couldn't actually do themselves.
So true. So true. And the other one was the footprints. They said, oh, look, there's too much moisture because look how clear they are. Only a sort of caked mud could do that, but actually you could do that with flour. The fact is, it's just very fine ground, and it makes... And there's, of course, it's a vacuum again. It coheres. And the other thing with the mirrors that Apollo 12 astronauts put on the moon, which are now used for bouncing lasers off, for detecting, for example, how far the moon is getting away from us. And you can make incredibly accurate measurements because of mirrors on the surface of the moon. And perhaps, to me, the clinching one is that America's enemy at the time in the space race was the Soviet Union. And not once did they make a suggestion that they thought America hadn't done it. They never said, no, we know this was hoax.
Yeah.
The fact is, for every ill-conceived argument that the moon landings were a hoax, there's a perfectly logical explanation to put our minds at rest. What conclusion did the great biologist Stephen Jay Gould draw from a lifetime study of fish?
Oh.
Yeah.
They haven't got any legs.
Is that his lifetime study?
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't his lifetime study of a fish.
Yeah. After a while, they smell.
Yeah. He's a bit thick, and he just stared at me, and they haven't got any legs.
Starfish don't have brains. It's the kind of Louis Walsh of the aquatic world. They really don't have brains, they're starfish.
And they're not really fish, are they, starfish, to be honest?
Well, the word fish is in there, which kind of qualifies them, I think.
Is a starfish a fish? Is a jellyfish a fish? Well, yeah, cuttlefish a fish?
Yes, I believe. But the starfish...
crayfish is a lobster.
There's a division, isn't there, in the world, whether it should be down to sort of experts in biology, whether things are fish, or whether it should be down to menus.
Yes.
I think, for example, a crayfish comes under fish in a menu.
He looks like he's reading the sell-by date on that.
He does. Stephen Jay Gould was very great. He's dead now. He's very great. He won a Nobel Prize. He was a paleontologist and an extraordinary biologist. And he came to a conclusion which is...
They can feel no love.
No, that there is no such thing as a fish. A fish has no biological meaning. There is just...
Well, I'm absolutely right. Go with menus.
On a menu it does. But in a menu, a fish is not the same as shellfish or seafood, is it?
It often comes in the same bit and separate from pudding.
Things that live in the sea.
Pudding are different.
Yeah. How can something not be something? Something can't be not something, can it? But if you've created a something, then something has to be that something, otherwise you haven't created a something. So it has to be a fish if there is the idea of a fish in the first place.
I swear there's a philosophy somewhere.
Slow down, Plato.
There's some sort of ontological argument going there, and of course, to us, that we use the word fish. But biologically speaking, a salmon is more related to, say, a camel than it is to a hagfish. Like, there are lots of things that fly, like a bumblebee flies, a vulture flies, and there are flying lizards. They're not all birds.
No.
But we call things that swim in the sea fish, and actually, biologically, evolutionarily, they have absolutely nothing to do with each other at all. So, after a lifetime study of fish, biologist Stephen Jay Gould concluded that there's no such thing as a fish. Why did Julius Caesar wear a laurel wreath?
Was it because he was bald?
Yes is the right answer, absolutely right. He was very vain. According to Suetonius, his baldness was a disfigurement of which he was deeply ashamed, and so he chose the laurel wreath as one of the things he had a right to wear, and wore it all the time, which others wouldn't.
They said the laurel wreath is going to do wonders for you, Julius. What it's going to do is going to take attention away from the baldness. Now, they come in a variety of colours and styles. We're going to start you off with a very simple, traditional one.
He was also supposed to have invented the comb-over, because Suetonius also...
Invented the
Yeah, he combed his hair forward. I should quote you Suetonius in translation. He used to comb forward the scanty locks from the crown of his head, and of all the honours voted for him by the Senate and people, there was none which he received or made use of more gladly than the privilege of wearing a laurel wreath at all times.
It's going to look really obvious.
Looked like a 60s footballer who'd come through a hedge.
It'd be like leaving your Christmas cracker hat on all year.
What animals did the Carthaginian general Hannibal use to defeat King Eumenes of Pergamon in 184 BC?
Elephant.
No. He used to defeat who? King Eumenes of Pergamon.
Right. Him.
Him, there he is.
Is he defeated?
Horses,
Not
tigers,
horses.
lions, leopards, mice.
Bacteria.
Snakes.
Snakes.
Put lots of snakes
Not
in earthenware
really.
jars.
I don't think of that as an animal, really.
Well, put them in earthenware pots, threw them at the enemy and onto their ships.
Really?
Yeah.
What a great idea.
Snakes on a plane was almost the first example of it. How did Snakes on a Plane come about? Do you know?
Snakes on a plane.
Yes, the film.
People had more money than sense, and
Maybe. No, supposedly it was a group of scriptwriters sitting around trying to think up the stupidest names,
Really?
like a pub game, and someone said, Snakes on a Plane, and they said, you know, that's so crap, it's good.
It would be scary to be on a plane with lots of snakes, though. I mean...
yes,
Good.
it would.
I like
Yes.
the film.
Is
It's
it
quite
good?
scary.
The key would be whether the mechanism, the plot that
Yeah.
leads to the snakes being on the plane is believable or not.
Well, they get out of a thing in a hold.
Oh, well, that sounds all right to me.
Yes.
And they're snakes, so they can get through tiny
They come up the
gaps.
loo.
Whoa!
Might well do.
Ooh, anyway, yes. Hannibal defeated the Pergamese by bombing them with pots full of snakes. Why was it hard for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle?
Eyes to the right.
This is because it was a gate, wasn't it? It was a gate.
No. Christ, if you remember, says it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God.
Of course, and these were the days before liquidizers.
Yeah,
So there was no chance of pureeing up the thing and getting a straw. And I mean, it would be a mess, but it would be doable, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, 'cause
and remember, this is a rich man we're talking about. He would have people to
He'd
do
have
this
all
for
the
him.
white goods,
Yeah.
wouldn't he? You know,
Oh, yeah.
if
Well,
there's anything...
Obviously, what happened is a lot of rich men read the Bible and thought, that can't be right, surely. So there are two get-out clauses. One was this idea that there was an eye of the needle gate
Wasn't
in
it?
Jerusalem
Yeah,
city walls, but there is absolutely no contemporary historical or archaeological evidence.
Well, actually, in biblical times, women's hands were significantly bigger than they are today. So a needle's eye could be 40 or 50 foot across. Enormous.
You still want that rich man to get through, don't you?
Well, the thing is, what someone told me, I might say, at my bloody school,
Yes.
which is still going, and it turns out it's talking bullshit.
I bet it was a private
It was a private school
where they don't like to get on the
they
wrong
said
side of rich people.
There are two sorts of gate to get into cities in those days. One that was quite wide, one that was quite narrow, and a fully laden camel couldn't squeeze through quite a narrow gate, and those were called eyes of needles. And what Jesus wasn't doing was being sort of sarky and going, yeah, it's about as easy for a rich man to get into heaven as to get a planet into a shoe. He was actually saying that if the camel was no longer fully laden, hence the wealth had been, dumped somewhere, then the camel went in easy
I
as you
don't know
like.
how rich you are. If all your stuff is on the back of one camel.
Well, it depends if it's diamonds.
Yeah,
That's
damn
really
rich.
rich. They hadn't found all the South African diamond mines then, so diamonds worth even more.
Yeah, good point.
The coronation of George IV, all the diamonds in the crown jewels were hired. The King of England wasn't rich enough to own enough diamonds for one poxy coronation. That's how expensive diamonds
Can you
were.
hire
now
diamonds?
any sort of rap star's got
Of course you
loads.
can. At the Oscars, all the actors hire diamonds.
That would be the Everest of unsure engagements, wouldn't it? I've just rented this for a week. Let's see how things go. Let's wait till after you put
But no,
out.
you're absolutely right, David. That is precisely what...
Jesus was being
Jesus
sarcastic.
meant exactly what he said.
Should have just said,
Yeah.
you can't. If you're rich, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
Thanks for
We
watching.
tell who is whose child just by looking at their ears.
That was
What a beautiful weekend.
Presumably,
Yeah.
the parents of the child would be going, step away from my child, stop looking at its ears.
Yes, there is that.
On that day, I had to have a child's head on my body all day.
Was it exhausting?
I tell you
Things
what,
they
I've got a
think
cracking
about.
pair of tits.
So the Atkins is working then.
I feel really left out.
I'm sorry.
Can I be like the dog or something?
Actually, though,
breasts of
David,
Carl.
you could also be the parent of that child. And indeed, Alan and Phil could be your parents. In terms of ears, how will we know that, though? What is it about your ears that is particular? It's very odd that all four of you, have very unusual ears. Or not very unusual, but less than average.
Is it that
The
you...
lobe
length thing?
Yeah.
It's a lobe thing. Your lobes are all attached. They don't hang.
Attach? Yeah, what, you mean they're not sort of over there somewhere?
No, they're called attached lobes.
Oh,
they
no.
go straight down. You don't have a little actual lobe.
You have a lobe.
Yeah.
You have a lobe, don't
A
you?
little flappy lobe, that I can do that.
Yeah. Oh, stop it! Stop it!
It's more common to have a lobe than not to, in fact. In the audience, can you put your hands up if you've got, like me, a little flappy lobe? Freaks! There you see? And could you put your hands up if you haven't, if you're like those? Yes, you see? It's a bit like eye colour. It's a dominant and recessive gene thing, so that if you both have attached lobes as a mother and father, then your child must have attached lobes too.
So if a family are watching this and they think, well, hang on, ours hasn't.
Yeah. I'm afraid it's a dead giveaway. Yeah.
Well, this is turning into Kilroy. Well done.
Yeah. What is the highest mountain in Europe? Yeah.
Mont Blanc.
Sorry you said that. No, it isn't. It isn't.
Yes, it is.
No. It does begin with an E, if that's any help.
Enormo Blanc.
Very good.
Monte Bianco.
Not the Eiger, no.
Etna.
Oh, hello. Oh, Eiger. Did you say Etna?
Yeah.
Etna, eh? No, indeed.
It's some island. It's from the bottom of the sea, if you measure. No.
That's Etna, isn't it, or Stromboli? No, it's not. It's actually right on the borders of Europe, but it does count as Europe. It's definitely Europe, isn't it?
Is it somewhere in the Caucasus?
It is in the Caucasus.
Oh, which of the mountain names of the Caucasus?
Mount Elbrus is the answer. Mount Elbrus. It's where Prometheus was supposedly chained for daring to steal fire from heaven, and he had his liver pecked out every day by vultures as punishment. Ooh. Yes, that's gotta hurt.
You want to get it over with at the beginning of the day.
Yes,
Yeah.
you would. 100 people attempt to climb the summit every day in the summer season, when it's not too cold, and about 30-odd die every year.
Do you know that 1 in 8 of people who try to climb Everest die?
Really? That's a high attrition rate, isn't it?
Not good, is it?
Not good, not good at all.
You get acute mountain sickness because you can't breathe. So your stomach won't accept food, so you start throwing up. Apparently there are signs all the way up saying, if you are throwing up and you have a headache, go back.
Yeah.
But people don't.
So when you're putting your party together to go up Everest, just if there's 7 of you, just get one someone you don't like.
Yeah.
Preferably with asthma. Lead on, Wheezy.
In 1997, it was a Land Rover Defender that drove to the very top of Mount Everest, which is a high mountain. It's 18,510 feet.
It's also a very busy mountain for people climbing it, all of whom must have been thrilled to see some guy drive past.
What is this a representation of?
It's Roy Chubby Brown eating a hobnob.
It's Gladstone eating an ice cream and then being beamed up by the Martians.
It's giving birth.
Oh, yes. Brilliant. Brilliant. That's exactly what it is. It's a lamb being born.
God.
In fact, this is a sound effect. We can actually see the sound being made.
Has he listened to lambs being born? And then Dan Arrows, he said, no one knows what a lamb being born sounds like. I'll do any old crap.
She actually...
I'll drop a towel.
She's oddly named Lizzie Calf, oddly enough. And she used to do the sound effects for the Archers, amongst other things. She's now our sound wizard. But there is a name to this science of sound effects as used in movies. What sound recordists need is clean dialogue. And all the sound effects, footsteps and other noises, guns being cocked, the rustle of clothing, the lighting of a cigarette, almost all of that is done afterwards by someone called a Foley artist. And here's an example of some of the early Foley artists making their noises. And all kinds of different things are used. If you close your eyes, let the audience see how it's being made. You see if... Alan, when I say close your eyes...
Now, by the way, when I open them, you won't all have gone, will you?
A lamb on my head.
Yeah. You close your eyes, we'll let the audience and everyone at home see some more sounds being made. See if you can see what these are. So, what was that?
Guillotine.
Guillotine, all right. Very good. How was it made?
With a guillotine and a person.
They wanted the sound of cabbages being chopped up, and so they had to kill a guy.
Oh, very good, it was
My
indeed.
eyes shut long after the sound of it.
I'm still thinking with
I'm so obedient.
It was indeed a cabbage. You slide a knife along a scaffolding pole and then chop a cabbage and drop it into the bucket. It's pretty good.
Saves
Got
the
another
life
one.
of
Close
an
your eyes.
aristocrat.
Okay.
And what was that?
Someone pretending
So
to be a
horse
horse.
clapping.
I mean, that sounds exactly like some coconut shell. That's a two-legged horse.
Yeah.
Wearing some awkward shoes.
There you are, here they are. That's it. You've all done.
It's a horse clapping.
Don't you think it sounds like a horse?
It does sound like a horse.
You've seen it many times in films without knowing that it was coconuts. If you see the visual thing, then it works. Another one.
At the same time.
Close your eyes, yeah. What do you think this sound is?
It's fire. It's a fire, isn't
Yes,
it?
fire, exactly. They use this for fire, ripping through straw and things like that.
On all the... That one.
Now, here's a good one. This is weird, this. Because you see it and you think, no, bollocks. It's a piece of paper coming out of an envelope, right?
And we're taking off a shirt.
No. This is what they genuinely used at Elstree. For the doors in Star Wars, electric doors. Paper being taken out of an envelope. Simple as that. You watch a bit of Star Wars now and you see the doors open, you think, oh, yes, so it is. So anyway, we thank Lizzie Calf, our sound expert, and we apologise to her if she's in tears now, having been mocked by David Mitchell.
No, I'm not. Look, I'm perfectly willing to accept that with the pictures there, then you're going to buy the whole effect.
Yeah.
But, you know...
Who said let them eat cake?
Oh.
Yes.
It's that French woman.
Yes? What's
Dawn French.
Oh, very good.
She said let them eat brioche.
Who did?
I'm not saying it.
I'm asking you. I need to know.
Oh, was it Mr. Kipling?
Oh, Jimmy. Marie Osmond.
Kirsten Dunst.
No.
Kirsten Dunst in that shocking film. It's the worst film ever made since Revolution with Al Pacino.
Did it involve cakes? Oh, a Marie Antoinette film.
Yes.
Oh, was it? Let
So
me...
would you say what?
Yes.
Who said it?
What you?
Marie Antoinette.
Wait, why are you keeping on saying Marie Antoinette?
Because I wanted that to happen. No, Marie Antoinette didn't say it, or if she did say it, she was quoting it. She was born in 1755, as every schoolboy knows, and the phrase was seen in print in 1760, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau claims to have seen it in 1740. So it's an old thing. It's this idea that it was Marie Antoinette is not true.
I think it's unfair. You want to hear the whole conversation.
Yeah.
They haven't got any bread. Let them eat cake. They haven't got any cake either. Oh, I understand this is a problem.
Yes.
I'll in some way talk to the ministers about it. We'll see what we can do.
That might well have been the accusation that one grand lady or another committed this particular gaffe was in circulation at least 15 years before Marie Antoinette was born. Now, what is the worst thing to eat for tooth decay?
Crystal meth.
There is some truth. Certainly, crystal meth addicts have appalling teeth.
Have you seen the ad for crystal meth?
No.
It doesn't make me want to do it.
Ad against it, surely.
Oh, is it? That explains
I think
it.
so.
No, that makes perfect sense, because I looked at it and went, who's buying that? It's horrible. The fact they sell it in vials.
Yeah.
The worst thing you could do would be to
eat.
Because I saw this on TV, is to put them in salsa and then run a current through it.
That must be bad, I grant you.
The guy broke out of jail in Mexico. Took him 6 years. He just kept wiping salsa on the bars.
Oh, my
And eventually, after 6 years, the acid broke down the steel.
Oh.
And then they went, it was that Mythbuster show.
Oh, well.
And then they ran a current through it, and it just happened in days.
Gracious, how brilliant.
So you wouldn't want to do that.
If your teeth were like iron bars.
I would just say, don't run a current through your teeth.
No, that's a good full stop. You're right.
I know, it's not going to be sugar, is it? You're trying to make us say sugar.
The point is, there's something worse than sugar. Sugar is quite bad, but the thing about it is it dissolves quite quickly in your saliva and is out and away from the teeth, whereas potato starch is just about the worst thing because it hangs around in the teeth much more than sugar. Crisps are a particularly bad thing. There are bits of them stay up and you may think, oh, well, at least it's not sugar. It's not like having an opal fruit stuck in there, but actually, it's really bad. Do you know having gum disease doubles your chance of coronary artery disease? That's pretty scary, isn't it?
Does it double your chances, or is it just there's a correlation between the two?
No, there is a direct causal link. Bacteria from the mouth find their way to the heart. A lot of disease in the heart actually is disease. It is infection, not just bad lifestyle and being lazy. It is actually... you can get a virus, the heart can kill people very commonly, or bacteria.
So flossing is good for your heart?
Yes, that's a good thought, isn't it? How about
Well,
that?
they don't try and floss your heart.
I saw in America anal floss.
Here we go again.
It's a way of... It's not a gay thing, Rich. It's an American thing. It's a way of drying your intimate cracky
God
parts.
bless America.
Yeah.
Drive-through hamburgers and anal floss.
Isn't that just a towel?
Yeah, a towel, but it's a special one.
You were doing the wrong way then.
Sorry, was I?
It's a special... It's a special towel with a gusset.
Yeah, basically. Sorry, putting his sleeves up worried me. I thought you were going to... Would you like to have Cedric Gibbons nude on your mantelpiece?
It's not Stanley Gibbons, the philatelist.
No! He's a Hollywood figure, remarkable Hollywood figure, Cedric Gibbons. He was the premier art director stroke production designer of Hollywood for MGM. And in 1928, he was asked to design something. What might that have been? No.
The Oscar.
Thank you. The Oscar. And not only did he design it, he won 11 of them. He was nominated for 36 and won 11. Almost all Oscars, as you know, were won by Walt Disney, who won how many?
109.
26.
20, yeah.
And Cedric Gibbons won 11, and all the rest went to Emma Thompson. Oh, look, she is. Oh,
Lovely
excellent.
winning smile.
Do you remember which one that was? Sense and
That's
Sensibility or Howard's
Sensibility.
Way? Howard's End.
Howard's Way.
I nearly said Howard's Way.
That interesting boat script I wrote.
But you were nominated for 3 others.
Yes.
Do you remember what they were?
Remains of the Day, In the Name of the Father.
Best Supporting Actress. And you were also nominated for Sense and Sensibility as Best Supporting
Okay,
Actress.
I forgot.
I can remember all the GCSEs I did. I would definitely remember every Oscar nomination. I think when, like, the rest of my brain had melted, I fed through a tube, those 5 names of films would still come out.
I made an Oscar. I actually made a genuine Oscar. I went to the factory in Chicago where they were made.
Is it a mould, like a jelly mould?
Well, there is a mould, but it's pure metal Britannium.
Or you have to hew it.
Yeah.
Well, you buff it.
If you have to,
a damn good buffing.
If you have to hew it, I mean, I'm not being rude, but if I was winning an Oscar this year, I'd say, can I have one of the ones made by the professional? That one, Stephen Fry balls up.
I was well supervised. What makes up more than 70% of the internet? Ooh.
It's my personal collection, isn't it?
Of what?
Of gentlemen's special interest literature.
I think we know what you're talking about.
Well, if you're going to be like that...
No, it's quite surprising. They did a survey on behalf of the American Civil Liberties Union, who were very annoyed about some legislation that Bush was trying to push through, which they thought somewhat prohibitive of personal liberty, and they discovered that less than 1% of the internet is pornography. Less than 1%. Of all email traffic, 85, in fact, up to 89%, is spam. It's as simple as that.
Trying to sell you Xanax and penis enlargement.
Exactly. Soft Cialis, whatever that is.
The annoying thing about those, I get loads of them, most of them from my girlfriend, but... it's the ones from my mum that really hurt.
Oh. Yay! Oh. Yes, a recent study has established that the World Wide Web is less than 1% pornography, and on the other hand, 89% of all emails are spam, which is good news if you're looking for cheap pills or you want to increase your extremities.
Which is the bravest species of animal?
I think it might be the ichneumon. The mongoose.
Yes, please.
Yes. Because the mongoose is basically like a sort of glorified ferret. And it goes out of its way to kill cobras. And cobras can kill you just by looking at you the wrong way. So I think that's pretty brave.
Why does it kill cobras? Because if it can only eat cobra, it's not brave, it's just sensible. It's just, you know...
No, but cobras, you know, they come out of baskets, they sing, they dance. Sort of Les Dennis of the snake world.
Yeah. Well, they're literally the hoodie of the snake world, aren't they? They've got the little hoods.
They're not that brave, though, because as far as I'm aware, the mongoose nearly always wins. I've never seen a David Attenborough where he suddenly goes, oh dear, the mongoose has copped it. What's difficult about this question, I think, is you need some kind of comparative unit of bravery. I think...
And we have one. How do we show how brave people are in a graded order? Soldiers,
medals.
for example. Medals?
Right.
There are bound to be loads of horses and dogs that have been ridiculously given medals if they understood what they were doing at all.
Pigeons get them, they get medals for making
I'm going to give you the points, Alan. You said pigeons, didn't you? Pigeons.
Yes. Points?
Yes. Pigeons mean points.
Brilliant.
Maria Dickin, who founded the People's Dispensary for Sick Animals. In 1943, she instituted a medal called the Dickin, which is the equivalent of a Victoria Cross for animals that serve in the armed forces.
She sounds really bonkers.
Yeah.
The thing is, to start giving the animals medals, you've got to start promoting the animals, and at some point you get a pigeon in charge of the whole army.
To be brave, you need to know the element of risk. So I reckon probably the bravest is something like a robin, because I've seen robins mob cats. You know, that's the equivalent of us running towards...
Is this as in Batman?
A tiger.
Well, because that's just not fair, is it?
No, that's...
Well, anyway, the Dickin Medal has been awarded 60 times, and 32 times it's gone to a pigeon. Once to a cat on board HMS Amethyst. The Yangtze incident.
Yangtze incident in 1949, isn't it?
Entire crew saved by a cat.
Yeah.
Well, he'd ate all the rats on ship.
That's not bravery, though. That's just greed.
It is really, to be perfectly honest.
At Moggy.
If you can imagine what a kamikaze pigeon unit did.
Fly into things, fly into planes, engines.
You're getting there. It's a very complicated...
Fly down guns.
It's a man...
Nest. Terrible nuisance to get out.
It was to fly at ships, but in a very particular way, inside a missile. It's got a window, right? No, I'll explain it to you. Here's a pigeon. I've got a pigeon here. Voila. And I have a ship. Yeah. And you train the pigeon to peck at a ship. And every time it does, it's rewarded with grain. Then you put it inside its missile with a glass front, right? And a ship comes into view, but it's slightly on the left. Well, the pigeon's behavioural response is to peck towards where it is. And this activates a relay. And as it gets nearer the ship and it gets bigger and bigger, it pecks more and more and more and more and more, which tells them that they're on the right track. They get really, really close and it explodes in a ball of flame. Destroying...
And that's the thanks it gets.
That's the thanks. It maybe gets showered with grain at the last second, just as a thank you, who knows. But it's a guidance system.
Did it work?
It wasn't used.
Right.
But...
what they did using this man Skinner, this behavioural psychologist's experiments, was they got a bit of glass, and instead of having a target on it or anything like that, it was just a plain piece of glass with an orange dot on it. And every time the pigeon hit the dot exactly like that, it would get rewarded. Can you imagine why that would be useful?
I was thinking about this just the other day. It's funny you said it.
Very slow form of execution for someone. You put an orange dot on them, put a pigeon in the room, you could activate 12 years.
No, pigeons have very good eyesight, and if an air rescue helicopter is searching the sea and someone's in a little orange dinghy or in an orange life jacket, the pigeon will always see it as a little dot in its screen, so let's go like that, thinking it's going to get fed, and that will alert the pilot, and it works. And that's beneficial, and no one dies. Someone might even get saved.
Yes.
And then you eat the pigeon on the way back. The passenger pigeon, is that a familiar species to any of you? Oh. It's one of the saddest stories. There were flocks of them in America, and I'm not kidding, that were 1 mile wide and 300 miles long. Good Lord. They would have 2 billion of these birds. They were just the most extraordinary sight in nature, probably.
So they're shitting whole hills.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you imagine?
If you're caught under that, you are dead.
You are. Seriously dead. In 1896, they killed the final flock of 250,000 in one day, knowing it was the last American sportsman, and I use the word sport quite wrongly.
Did you know about the Puccini gun? The composer Puccini was a great shooter of birds, as a lot of Italians are. When I was in his house at Torre del Lago, there was the Puccini gun, which he made himself, and he'd be sitting there writing, you know, lovely opera, and he'd hear a snipe outside the window. He'd grab this thing, which had the bore on it like a drain pipe, and he could bring down 50 snipe in one go.
Oh, you see, is that sport? He's Italian. Italians, Americans, I mean, really. That's horrible. But can you imagine that? And then on one day, knowing you're wiping out an entire species to kill 250,000 birds in a day.
Did they know it was the last 250,000? And they sort of thought,
knew.
Fantastic, let's finish them off.
Yeah.
That was the last flock, and then the last bird itself died in the Cincinnati Zoo in 1914. She was called Martha.
So the pigeons in Trafalgar Square, they're wild rock pigeons.
Wild rock doves.
Wild rock doves.
Yeah.
Do they know that? Because you don't tend to see them on the cliffs at Beachy Head.
They're confused by our rock cliffs, aren't they? That's the problem. Pablo Picasso was a keen pigeon fancier.
His father was a painter of pigeons. It was a style in late 19th century Malaga. Instead of, like, flower genre painting in France, whatever, his father was a pigeoniana, or whatever it was called. And when he discovered how good his son was, he gave him his brushes and never painted again.
Fantail pigeons he collected himself, and of course he called his daughter
Paloma,
which is Spanish for a dove or pigeon.
Indeed.
Una paloma blanca, you remember. There we are. So, B.F. Skinner was the name of the man who designed these missiles aimed by pigeons who were tapping in the nose, and it was tested successfully, but never actually saw action.